Hello, 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 you gorgeous human beings. This is our first YouTube live ever, and I am super excited to be here. I am going to be breaking down the 3 stages of wealth building, money making that you are going to need to go through in order to create your first 6-figure, not years, but months. My name is Susie Ashworth. I have been in the online coaching industry for the last 12 years, and I work with individuals who want to not only make a massive change and impact in this world, but also help other people do the same thing. So, when I was thinking about how have I created 8 figures over the last 12 years of being in business, what I have seen in my own business and then also helping hundreds of coaches in close proximity and then thousands through my programs is that there are 3 key stages. And the first stage is 0 to £20,000 a month. And most people massively underestimate the level of courage that is required in that first stage of business. And I would say that competence, which is something that I am obsessed with, like your skill set, being great at what it is that you do, is definitely important. And what is equally as important in that first stage is your willingness to put yourself out there. Your willingness to say, I have a solution to the problem that you are talking about over here. Now, to kind of put this into perspective, I know that some people who are watching this are going to say, it's okay for you. You are here talking about how to create 6 figures a month through your coaching business. Of course, people are going to want to come and listen to you. But obviously, it didn't start out here. And I think that this is one of the biggest mistakes that new coaches make, is that they think that because they cannot compete with people who have been in the industry for 5 years, 10 years, who have got the case studies and testimonials of people that they've helped to make 7 figures and beyond, that nobody's going to be interested. Where I started was somebody who was obsessed with the birth world, a hypnotherapist and a psychotherapist who created the world's first video-based hypnobirthing program. And I loved it. My role was to help parents create calm and positive birth experiences, irrespective of whether they were going to have a natural birth or an elective cesarean, or if things kind of went a little bit unexpected and they would end up, having an emergency C-section. How can they create still a calm and positive birth experience? That was my life. Until one day, working with an incredible coach, she said to me, if you could do anything you wanted, if you had £1 million in the bank, what would you choose to do? And I, without hesitation, without skipping a beat, said I would teach other people how to do this. Because even though I was obsessed with birth, that wasn't the thing that I was spending hours and hours and hours and hours reading about. I was reading about marketing and brand building and what it meant to have a personal brand and all of that good, juicy stuff. And so she said, if that's what you would do if you had £1 million in the bank, that's what you should be doing now. I had resistance to this because, again, the most common story is, who am I? I don't have enough experience. Why would anybody listen to me? And what I chose to do then, which is still one of the foundational principles I teach newbies now, is that yes, of course, you are the niche, but more than that, who are you speaking to? And what I decided to do was to teach pre- and postnatal specialists how to make their first £1,000 online. I wasn't talking about big numbers. I wasn't talking about making millions. I knew, because I was doing it, what you needed to do in order to make your first 1,000. And because I narrowed in and focused on pre and postnatal specialists, so people in the birth world, people where I really understood the language that they spoke, I understood their dreams, I understood their desires, I also understood their mindset blocks. And so, because I was able to speak to those things very specifically, even though it felt scary as hell, saying, I can help you with this, that is what I did. And because of that, in my second year of business coaching, I made £126,000. I already made my first six-figure year. So that first stage, naught to £20,000 a month, is about courage. It's about you saying you are enough. It's about taking your skill set and being like, right, I can do this. And being willing to start where you are at, knowing that where you are at and the experience that you have is absolutely enough. You are going to be 2 or 3 steps ahead of your dreamboat clients. And that's all you need to be, especially when you're focusing on a narrow promise and a narrow outcome. So that is stage 1. Stage 2 is 20,000 to 50,000 a month. And this is, if stage 1 is all about courage, stage 2 is about nervous system expansion. This is where so many people quit because the mind says, okay, now the stakes are so much higher. Now the mind says this is big money. And that question of who am I to be earning 20,000 a month, 30,000 a month, 40,000 a month, more than, some of you will be listening to this and being like, that's more than what my parents ever earned in a year. And what I have comes to making a massive change in your level of income, making a massive change in how much you are able to receive is about capacity. It's about being able to say, this is what I am charging, this is how I'm delivering it, and not have your internal system collapse. So what is happening behind the scenes when you have a great coach or a great mentor is that you are calibrating to their experience. And what I mean by that is that you become the sum of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. And I know that it's a cliche, but it's a cliche for a reason. And so when you are with somebody who is able to normalize the fact that you as an individual, of course you should be doing 30K months. Of course you're allowed to have a 10K package. The permission slip that they give themselves, that is what becomes normal for you. And you are, through observation and then also through tools and exercises, through the alchemizing of old stories, old beliefs, old fears, and stepping into a whole new mindset, actually, of what is available, what is possible, and what you're allowed to. You write yourself a new permission slip. And that permission slip is about saying hell to the yes. And as I say, most people quit not because they can't do it, but because they can't hold it, which is so, so sad, because it's at this stage, phase 2, where things really start getting fun. So the third stage of wealth building as a brand new coach is 50 to 100K months. And this is where you switch operating from a solopreneur mentality into, I am running a business. This is my company. And what is required, instead of kind of flying by the seat of your pants and having no systems and being like, I've had an idea, let's run with it. You build out a team of people to be able to support you. I talk about this in my book. You know, you can't go from 100,000 a year to 1 million a year by simply 10xing your output. That is impossible, especially if you're like me. You've got 3 kids, you are a single mum, you have a life outside of your work. It's not just about doing more. From 50K to 100K a month, you're thinking about, how can I work smarter? How can I leverage what it is that I am doing now for maximum impact? This is where you will move from perhaps predominantly selling one-to-one into a scalable one-to-many offer, where you'll be selling people one-to-many, but you'll also be delivering one-to-many. This is where you will get much more organized when it comes to your sales system. So how am I regularly pulling leads in during my launches and in between launches? How am I increasing conversions? What are my ways of, what are the levers that I get to pull to increase the lifetime value of the clients that are coming into my world, because I'm increasing the value that I'm able to deliver? So 50 to 100 is much more systems, processes, team, and the holy grail of monthly recurring revenue. This is where things get really, really exciting. Most people will never get to stage 3, and it's not because they aren't capable of doing it. It's that they don't switch out of that solopreneur mentality into entrepreneur, I own this company, CEO vibes. So this is what I want to invite you to consider. Which phase are you in right now? Tell me in the comments. If you're in phase 1, how are you doing when it comes to your courage? How are you doing when it comes to being visible and allowing people to see what it is that you do, and owning where you are at in your journey, knowing that all you need to be is 2 or 3 steps ahead? And that is absolutely perfect. 20 to 50K, this is mindset. This is about regulating your nervous system. This is allowing yourself to earn what feels like, to the mind, big money, and knowing that you are worthy and deserving of it. And then stage 3 is about the switch from solopreneur to CEO. It's systems, it's processes, it's teams, it's leverage, it's monthly recurring revenue, and it's fun, fun, fun. So if you have enjoyed this live stream, just tell me what your biggest takeaway was in the comments. This is super fun. I am going to be going live every Monday at around 11 a.m. So if this has been fun, please come and join me for our next session, where I will be sharing more on how you get to build a sustainable and profitable coaching business in 2026, whilst remaining sane, being able to honor all of your other responsibilities, and creating a heck load more impact and income in your life.